Good evening, everyone. As we record this, we're heading into the week of Thanksgiving. And I hope you're going to hear this after Thanksgiving because we're taking that day off. Sometimes you need a break from the grind, and we're all looking forward to having a couple days off. And I hope this finds everyone doing well and everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving with their families and loved ones and all that sort of stuff. So how's it going, Jeff?
Good, man. I'm going to be driving to Nashville for the holidays. So what are you going to be doing?
I'm going to be spending it with my family. Tina and I are going to be driving up to my parents' house. So they're about maybe an hour and a half away from us here in Jersey. And it's going to be hanging with them. We're going to help with the cooking, and I'm going to make some, we're going to make some food. It's going to be small, just me and her and my mom and dad and maybe my cousin. And
Nice.
yeah, just do that kind of thing.
That's great, man. Yeah, we're going to see my girlfriend's parents in Nashville, and we're driving. It's about a 12-hour drive. Going to break it up into 2 days. I'm really looking forward to it, man.
Get back on the road again,
Yeah, I love a good road trip, dude. You know me.
Oh, yeah. So before we get going, I just want to shout everyone out. Of course, we're part of a larger group of professionals, podcasting professionals, the podcasting Illuminati. Of course, I'm referring to the horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse. So to kick off the week, we have Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666 coming at you twice a month. Tuesday, the greatest metal podcast on the internet is Into the Necrosphere by Jackie Smith. That's literally the only music related podcast I listen to. And every week, if you're into extreme music with like more of a concentration in black metal and like super dark, metal, Jackie's the guy to break all that stuff down. He has excellent guests and his show just keeps moving from strength to strength. And yeah, it's great. And it's an honor to know him. And it's an honor to know everybody. Everyone's become very, very tight in this circle that we have. Wednesday is Everything Went Black, which is my flagship podcast where I just sort of, I don't know, man, just kind of make it up as I go along. I have like, there's no real format, it's if it's interesting, I try to talk about it. I've had a variety of different types of guests on there, variety of different types of subjects. So it's kind of like this like free form discussion. Thursday, of course, is Necro Thursday. Today is Necro Thursday, where it's either me and Mike Scandato or me and Jeff coming at you, and we talk about horror movies and give our worthless opinions about things that we like or dislike or whatever, but it's all done in good fun. Friday, Spitball Media comes at you, and of course, that's Mike's brother, John Draper. Saturday is a day off. Go out, enjoy the weather. It's getting to be it's November, so it's this beautiful weather out that we have here, at least in the Northeast. Sunday, the Reverend Carl Hikara comes at you with Soul Knox, and that's a show focused on the dark, the macabre. Carl and I have a collaborative thing we're doing called Darkness Weaves, which we just completed the first phase of that operation. It's the mission is to cover the work of Carl Edward Wagner, a writer who's been quite influential, but is sadly obscure these days. And I'm hoping to turn more people onto his work because a lot of it's out of print. And the first phase of what we talked about was In a Lonely Place, a collection of his horror stories, horror and weird fiction stories. And that's in print through Valancourt Books. And I know some of you guys out there have purchased that volume and have enjoyed the work and have commented to me and said that, oh yeah, this is great. So please go out there and support Carl Edward Wagner and Valancourt Books. And the next phase of our operation is we're covering his dark fantasy character Cain. So Carl is kicking off that phase of things. The first entry into that is going to be the Cain story Undertow. And that's going to take us probably the rest of our lives to work with all that material. There's like volumes of that material out there. There's novels, there's all kinds of stuff. And then our newest horseman, Iblis Manifestations, brought to you by Cheyenne of the band Trivax. And Cheyenne, he's just too free to have a regular schedule. So they kind of drop out of the ether into our laps whenever, just at the right time. I would say
Hmm.
in the nick of time, he deploys an episode. So there you go.
Amazing. What a group of people that is.
It's really cool, man. And it's just a growing sort of thing. And I know a lot of you guys, we all our listeners cross over, and I just makes me feel really cool to like have this kind of group of people like that's putting out quality media, quality content for everyone. That's our mission, you know.
And I just listened to a little bit of you on Horror Wolf talking about Predator.
That's correct. Yeah, yeah, and that's the other thing we do. We also guest on each other's shows all the time, so that's always fun.
Yeah, you know, you got to point. I got to point out that you guys were talking about Exorcist Believer for a little bit there, and you said some people are being hyperbolic, saying like Exorcist 2 is better than this one. I'm one of those people.
Yeah. Exorcist 2 is pretty bad, but also The Believer is also pretty bad. So
Yeah,
it's hard to say.
I'll say like Exorcist 2 is awful as it is, and it is awful. It's a big swing, like it's obvious, like it's such a strange, weird art film. It's such a bizarre choice to follow The Exorcist up with that, but at least it's trying to do something. Whereas Believer just feels like no one really cared. No one's heart was in it. Like, hey, let's just make this. And two, there's some level of passion there, as misguided as it is.
Discussing which of these two films is better is almost like trying to figure out who's the best looking waitress at Denny's. You know what I mean?
Oh God. Okay, point taken.
But
So have
yeah,
you been checking anything out, then?
you know what? I have, man. The last several weeks have been rough as far as work goes. I got this new
Mm.
job started in September. And it's been killing me, but I literally right before we started talking, I watched the movie The Reflecting Skin. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh Philip Riley or something like that. What's his name? The director?
I don't know. That's a good question. I know that someone that does cinematography in this has something to do with David Lynch.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just watched that director's last film during my 31 Days of Horror. He made a film called Heartless. It was pretty good. And it made me think I need to watch Reflecting Skin again because it's been like 20 years, I think, maybe since I've seen that. I think I was living in Boston last time I saw it.
It's one of my favorite films, actually. I watched it. I think pretty much every year I'll run through that movie, and
Really?
it's on Tubi right now. And
Oh, shit.
yeah, this morning Tina and I got up early. We were like flipping through stuff to maybe watch while we have breakfast, and I'm like, oh, Reflecting Skin is on Tubi, so we watched it, and literally minutes before you and I started talking, so it's fresh in my mind, and it's
Oh.
such a great movie. And I can't confirm, I have to confirm this, but I think I actually have the Criterion of that film.
Oh, I did not know that was a Criterion film.
I think I have it actually, but I have to look, I have to look, you know.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's Viggo Mortensen too, right?
Yeah,
Young
it came
Viggo.
out in 1990, I think, and Vigo is in it. It's like one of his earlier films, and it's just we should talk about this. We should do an episode on this movie because it's like one of the oddest films I've ever seen, and
Yeah.
it's so like uncomfortable and creepy and just unsettling, you know. And once again, largely allegorical. You know, there's a lot
Hmm.
of allegory in that movie too.
Yeah. It's like he made a film after that called, I think it's called The Passion of Darkly Noon, and then sort of disappeared for a while. Came out in 2009 with Heartless and hasn't really done anything since. So I don't know what's going on with that director. You looking for something, Mike?
My iPad just turned on.
Oh shit.
Yeah, something started playing in the background there. Weird. All
Oh,
right,
weird.
sorry
The
about that.
dark forces are trying to stop us.
Yeah. And then we just recently started a rewatch of Game of Thrones from the first season. So that's something we've been doing like at night, you know, just to wind down and stuff like that.
Hmm. Never seen a single episode of that show.
I like it a lot. I mean, I like a lot of stuff like that. You know, it's kind of dark fantasy, like Lord of the Rings, Conan, like that sort of thing.
I hear too that like our mutual friend Peter Ferris was telling me about that show, and I was really surprised to hear that he watched it because that's not his thing at all. And he's like, man, like it just take all the swords and dragons away, and it's still a great show.
It is, but I also like all the swords and dragons though too.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a lot of sorcery and like magic and evil and stuff like that.
Right. I heard the last couple seasons weren't that good. Is that true?
It starts off strong and maybe tapers off a little bit, but I was kind of satisfied with it. I thought it was pretty good.
Oh, right on. All right.
Yeah. I
One of
never
these
read the
days I'll
books
get
though.
around to it.
I never read the books.
Okay.
The fiction, the literature part never really snuck into my catalog here. So
I'm thinking like one of these days I'm gonna have to go in for surgery and I'm gonna be, on my back for like a week. That might be a good time to finally watch that show.
I got to say, I lost interest in Fall of the House of Usher, man. I got to go.
Wow.
I have to go back and I will finish it, but I just completely lost interest in it.
Wow, really? God, we plowed through it in like 3 days. I mean, I couldn't get enough, and I'm not really a fan of that guy. I think he's made some good stuff, but I didn't enjoy any of his other Netflix shows, and I get a lot of shit for that. But I don't know what to say. It's just not for me. Fall in the House of Usher was though. I mean, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's maybe I wasn't in the mood for it or something, but I couldn't
Yeah.
get through it. So maybe I just refresh. Maybe I'll start again from the beginning because I do want to watch it and I do want to talk about it. I think for sure we should try to do that.
As far as like horror TV goes, I mean that's by far the best, but it's also maybe the only. I can't think of anything other TV show that's sort of in the horror realm that I've watched. I know you were watching what's that? The American Horror Story, right?
Yeah, I finally tapped out. I finally came to my senses, and I was like, you know what, man, this sucks. Like it was terrible. That I couldn't even get through that either, man. And like it just was bad, And what's her name was in it? That
Kardashian.
yeah. And I'm like, why the fuck is he in this? Because I know she's famous and all this stuff and whatever, but like when you put her with real actors, she just looks terrible. Like she just up against the actors on that show, she just looks like a total amateur, unprofessional.
Yeah, you don't do anyone any favors when you miscast them in something.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like, and there's good actors on that show. At least some of the seasons I saw. You have that kid from the X-Men movies who played Dahmer.
Oh, Evan Peters.
Yeah, great actor. And yeah, I can't even imagine trying to do a scene like with a reality star or something like that. I don't know. It's a weird choice, but I guess you want to bring attention onto your show, so you bring in a big celebrity. I don't know. I mean, I get it.
What have you been checking out? Anything interesting?
Hardly anything though, but a couple like things. I found this podcast called Very Scary People.
Okay.
It's hosted by Donnie Wahlberg.
Donnie, not Mark Wahlberg.
Donnie from the New Kids on the Block. Yeah, dude,
Okay.
fucking Johnny kid.
Donnie, brother.
Johnny dude from fucking Southie. Yeah, like the first season, they covered the DeFeo murders, obviously made famous because of the Amityville horror. It was kind of cool. I mean, obviously, I know about the murders, but when you hear about that story of the house, it's always what happened to the Lutz family afterwards. So it was kind of interesting to get like a nice hour and a half breakdown of the DeFeo murders. And second season, they went into the Ken and Barbie killers out of Canada. I didn't know about this, and I went down sort of a rabbit hole after listening to the podcast about these two. You familiar with that?
Only in passing, but I don't know. I don't remember all the details about that. I just remember they were Canadian.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy story, and there's a lot of material out there about the Ken and Barbie killer, but season 2 of Very Scary People was my introduction to that whole story, and it was very disturbing and engrossing. But man, I mean, like, I just after listening to it, I just went and like was looking online about all this stuff, and yeah, I recommend it. Very scary people.
So it's like true crime stuff like that.
Yeah, hosted by Donnie Wahlberg, because
Funny.
Johnny. What else is true crime like New Kids on the Block? um,
I hear you, kid.
yeah, here you kid, dude. That's really about it. I'm gonna start a rewatch. Well, I already started, but promptly fell asleep to season 1 of Severance. It's I just realized it's been like a year and a half and still no season 2.
You need a season 2, man. You know how I feel about Severance.
Yeah, that was one of the best things I've watched in a long time. I'm hoping it's taking so long for season 2 because they're trying to get it right. Because I feel like that show could easily fly off the rails and become like another like Lost, a show that started off cool and then you realize they had no idea what they were doing. They were just throwing weird stuff at the wall, seeing what would stick. I'm hoping that Severance doesn't go down that road because season 1 was so perfect.
Yeah, totally, man. What have you seen the Terrifier 3 trailer yet?
Yeah, you mentioned that to me. Yeah, I've seen the controversy about it. It's apparently a trailer is controversial.
Well, I mean, I love the first. I think I'm a fan. Like I like
Yeah,
Terrifier, the whole universe, and Damien Leone is I think doing something very unique right now, especially with the independent take that he has on it.
hmm
It's almost like that, like it's that DIY like thing, which I dig about it. And the guy obviously has a vision for the whole story. There's a universe he's creating. I think it's really cool. Now if you're the implication of violence against a young kid, which is like the big controversy, I guess, like some edgelord out there is like all up in arms about like the implied violence, murder of a kid with an axe. It's like if you're going to be even scratching the surface of this movie and that's going to offend you, then you should just not watch it, right? I mean, in Terrifier 1, a woman gets like bisected, just like
yes,
graphically. In Terrifier 2, there's that scene where he like totally just dismembers this woman in her bedroom and like
right,
animatronic scene. And there's
right,
all sorts of nasty stuff, man, and it's like one of the center points of the series of the movies is extreme violence, and gore and just like, but so how can you be offended by something like that if you're knowingly like if you're going to check something out and you already know what the deal is, you can't, and you looked at it, you can't say you're offended by it.
right. Yeah, and violence against kids in horror is always been a thing. I mean, like, are you going to be offended when Jaws comes on TV on the 4th of July and that shark eats the kid?
First scenes in it, the kid gets his
Yeah,
murdered, an arm ripped off, by Pennywise, right? So there's that, Salem's Lot. Stephen King has murdered tons of kids in his story.
Yeah. Yeah. One that comes to mind is the Blob remake when that kid just totally gets fucking devoured by the Blob. It's one of the more, disturbing things I've seen in a horror movie.
Yeah. And in the trailer, it's implied that Art is going to axe this kid to death. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw the thing you're talking about. The guy, if you want to watch this, then block me, and it's just so, man, like, get a grip. None of this is real.
Yeah. First of all, I don't even know who this guy is, so I can't even block him because I don't even know that he existed before.
Right.
Someone sent me a screenshot of his account or whatever.
Yeah. 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 I don't. This is horror, and if things like that disturb you and bother you, and of course that seems like a normal reaction. Horror isn't for everyone, but to go on like a rant, like how dare you can watch something like this? It's just like, hey, not everything is for you, and that's okay.
This is true.
Yeah.
So before we get into the today's feature, we got a couple of voicemails. Of course, you can call into the show, the Necro phone. And that number is 908-913-1037. 0782. Once again, that's 908-913-0782. Call, leave a message. And yeah, it's a lot of fun hearing from people. And so we'll kick it off. Tavis from Pennsylvania. Okay, that's we got his name wrong the last time. And thanks for calling back, dude. I really appreciate you straightening us out on your name. And
Oh yeah.
that's the very least I can do is get your name right. So thank you for calling back.
How's it going, guys? This is Tavis in Pittsburgh calling back. It did sound like Dave last time, but yeah, it's Tavis. It's a weird one. There's not many of us, but we're out there. Usually when people see it, they think it's Travis, but no, Tavis. Yeah, good shows again, man. Just went back and was listening to some old episodes and checked out that British movie Bull, which good recommendation. Thought that was really cool, and honestly surprised I didn't see that ending coming, but yeah, I dug that. Actually trying to make a conscious effort of listening to watching new stuff, and went and watched that new Hell House, which was decent. Actually probably think it was like the second best one in the series, I think, as far as creepiness, probably after the first one. Pretty cool. And then watch that, The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster, and I was really surprised with how good that was. I don't know if anybody's checked that out yet, but definitely worth a watch on Shudder. And then a newer one on Screenbox, History of a Cult, South American movie. Pretty cool too. Definitely worth checking out. And then, next week being Thanksgiving, I don't know if anybody has any Thanksgiving movies they watch regularly, but me and my wife always watch The Changeling every Thanksgiving for whatever reason. But yeah, we watched that every Thanksgiving for the last 15 years. But also, yeah, Mike, thanks for the interview with John Padgett. Listened to that and went and bought his book, and that's pretty awesome so far. So yeah, cheers to that. But you guys have a good one. I hope everyone has a good Thanksgiving, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Once again, Tavis, thanks for calling in. Both Jeff and I love Bull. That's like probably one of our favorite collective films to come out that year.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I also liked Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. I thought that was like a fun, revisualization of Frankenstein's monster. It was pretty cool. I was entertained by that movie.
It's on my list to see before the end of the year because it's creeping up on us, and I'm still struggling to find a top 6. So I definitely want to check that out.
I have my number 1 and my number 2 already figured out. So
me too.
I'm having trouble backfilling the rest, though, for sure.
Yeah. I think there's about 4 that I feel like it's going to be a strong horror adjacent year.
Could be.
Yeah.
So next up, we got Charlie from Neptune, New Jersey.
Hey, what's up, Necro guys? This is Charlie from Neptune, New Jersey. First-time caller, big fan of the show. My girlfriend and I both enjoy the podcast a lot. We've discovered a lot of good movies just by listening to the podcast. You guys are doing a great job. It's always interesting to hear what you guys have to say about things. Thoughts, whether positive or negative. We watched Let's Scare Jessica to Death and Messiah of Evil just based on you guys covering it on the show. We're looking forward to doing a double feature of Terrified and When Evil Lurks. I'm very excited about that. I had a recommendation for you guys. I don't think anyone's mentioned it, but definitely recommend it. It's a movie from 2022. It's a Cornish folk horror movie called Ennis Main. That's spelled Enysmen. It takes place in the Cornish area of England, in the south, I believe. Kind of taps into the Cornish language, and it's shot on 16 millimeter. It's definitely got Lighthouse vibes. It's very claustrophobic and just real isolationist type vibes. I had heard about it on the Evolution of Horror podcast, which is a very good one to listen to as well. I know you guys are a fan of that, or at least some of you are. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. We just watched Fall of the House of Usher. We really enjoyed that. And, yeah, the list grows every day. So thanks again for everything you guys do, and congratulations on 200 episodes. And I'll definitely be calling in again. Take care, guys.
Glad to hear that you and your girlfriend enjoy the show. I always like when it becomes like a family effort. You know what I mean? That's pretty cool.
It's a family podcast for sure.
Family oriented fun here. You know?
Yes. Yeah.
And yes, dude, I loved East Maine. That is, he described it exactly. Cornish folk horror, experimental. I saw this in the movie theater at the IFC back when it came out. It had a very short theatrical run. And I saw it on Easter Sunday actually, and by myself, of course. And it was great, man. It was awesome. I have the Blu-ray. Definitely something I recommend everyone to talk about that film and check it out rather. And yeah, I also found out about it through the Evolution of Horror podcast, which I know Jeff, you listen to that show occasionally too, right?
Yeah, occasionally. Yeah. I don't know how this movie just completely missed my radar. It sounds like something I would absolutely love.
I think you would love it. I loved it. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere, but I have the Blu-ray, and definitely something to check out. And you know, if you guys are like down with it, definitely something you should be into.
Yeah, I think I might head down to Waterloo Records later today and try to find that on Blu-ray. It sounds great.
All right, cool.
All right.
I totally left out the secret of ventriloquism section for Tavis.
Oh, well,
That's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, I interviewed John Padgett, so
yeah,
everyone knows I love his work.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so for today's feature,
yes,
yeah, we have The Killer, which came out on Netflix. It's available on Netflix. So, directed by David Fincher, who we all, have seen tons of his movies. Based on the comic book The Killer by Alex Nolant-Luc Jacquemont, and Boom Studios released it. And if anyone is, Boom puts out a lot of cool stuff, graphic novels, trades, things like that. Were you aware of the comic book?
No, I had no idea this was based on a comic book. None. The entire time I was watching it, after just I don't like to read too much about a movie. I don't want to get someone else's perspective on it. I want to kind of have my own, but just kind of skim. Okay, what does Rotten Tomatoes say? What is that at? And is there any interesting factoids I can find? And that was one of them. It's like, yeah, this is a comic book. I was very surprised.
Totally unaware myself. But I do remember while I was watching this movie thinking that it reminded me of more like, if anyone's familiar with Ed Brubaker, it had a vibe of some of his comic work, and he's done a lot of crime. He actually wrote Batman for a while, and The Punisher for the bigger Marvel and DC. But his independent comics, he's done a bunch of different series called like Kill or Be Killed, Loveless, like all this stuff, very, very cool, interesting, gritty, writer. And a lot of this reminded me of something that he would have written as a comic book.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Like the more I thought about it, like, it's broken down. I actually watching it, my girlfriend asked, was this a book? And I said, well, I don't know. And she's like, it just kind of has a feel like that this could have been a book. So she was kind of right.
So they released on September 3rd, 2023 in Venice, October 27th, 2023 theatrical run in the States, and then November 10th, 2023 on Netflix for all to enjoy. Score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, and we know that team, if you're familiar with their film score work, they've been doing a lot. And of course, Trent Reznor is in Nine Inch Nails, so there you go.
I think the other guy is now too.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
They team up on like all their score work. I wasn't sure if he was actually a member of the band or not.
Yeah, I think the first note that got played, I said, I think I bet Trent Reznor did this one too. Like it is so distinctly him.
And also tons of Smiths in this movie too.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
And a Portishead song too.
Yes. Yeah. He likes
Yeah.
the gloomy British rock or whatever you call that.
What's also, you know what? Like, all right, well, let's run down who's in this thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So of course we got Michael Fassbender as the killer. We got Tilda Swinton, the inimicable Tilda Swinton as the expert. Charles Parnell as a lawyer, Hodges, which is kind of his handler.
Mhm.
Arliss Howard as a perfectly portrayed guy who hires people to kill his enemies in business,
Yeah.
aka Claiborne. Carrie O'Malley as Dolores, the unfortunate executive assistant of Hodges.
Yep.
And Sophie Charlotte as Magdala, which is the killer's love interest, is what his girlfriend, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And there's some other canon, people like cannon fodder, some collateral damage people in this movie. So yeah.
But for such a movie like with so many different locations, it's a very small cast.
I mean, it's mostly Michael Fassbender, really, just riffing on his own.
Yeah, I don't think he has many lines of dialogue in the movie at all. It's all his internal dialogue. But as far as him actually speaking to people, he barely says a word to anyone.
Yeah, it's very internal, this movie, and it's almost like journal entries or something like that. Like with it had this like diary aspect to it, where he talks about his philosophy and. In the beginning of this film, right off the bat, he's sighting up his next target. She's in Paris, and you just get the sense of boredom and waiting, and the life of a highly paid, hitman, mostly being waiting with no action.
Yeah, this first chapter was phenomenal. It's tedious, but it's also really thrilling and intense. And we've seen this story a million times. The hitman, the hit goes wrong, then he's he's out for revenge, all this stuff. But we never seen it quite like this. This isn't like a John Wick kind of thing with stylized violence. It really gets into the tedium of what he does. He's in some sort of abandoned office or something, and he's been there for 5 or 6 days. He's eating at McDonald's every day, taking the bread off his breakfast sandwich, and listening to the Smiths and just waiting and waiting for something to happen. I found that like a really interesting approach to something that we've seen a million times.
Exactly. And one of the interesting things about this is he goes in this very first opening of the movie, he goes into this pretty long monologue about the universe and the void and how emptiness and, basically what the insignificance of all actions, because he talks about how many people are born and how many people die and none of his actions make a dent in anything in like a cosmic level.
He's an existentialist, basically.
He's an existentialist. And of course, this touched right away on a lot of my Arthur Schopenhauer and Thomas Ligotti sort of like philosophies on the universe and that kind of thing, And then right after that, he has a Aleister Crowley quote, which he doesn't attribute to him. He couldn't reach out. Some guy said, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And he's like, by I can't remember who. Okay. And now that they did not, and this is typical, they did not mention the second line of that, which is it's part of this like a thing called Liber Al. And second line is love is the law, love under will. Now, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law has to do with like total will, like your intention in the world. It's like you're an individual and you have freedom and that sort of stuff. And that's kind of like his philosophy, because he says like, my philosophy is I don't give a fuck, basically, that's that. And that he probably takes strength from that whole Thelemic principle of like, do what thou wilt, that is the whole of the law. But he must have read the second line. And that second line actually plays into one of the driving force and his motivation for what actually comes afterward. You know what I'm trying to say?
No, I know. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And I think this movie has a lot more going on than people are giving it credit for.
Yeah, I mean, it's, there's like some cool action in there, fights and very stylized and like really well shot and all these like, great scenes and everything. But there's like this, what I'm at the end of this, ultimately a positive statement that takes all this bleakness and also spins it in a positive direction, which is unusual, I think, for a film like this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's also interesting you mentioned that he's always listening to the Smiths. Like he's a big fan, and that just struck me as funny. But like also it's very it fits with his aesthetic, with his worldview. The Smiths, it's his jangly pop band, but Morrissey's lyrics are kind of dark.
They're dark and very ironic, you
Yeah,
know, and they're making statements about love and, but the irony of love and all this sort of stuff and, that kind of thing.
yeah. I mean, he's listening to "How Soon Is Now" before he's about to kill someone with the line, "I am human and I need to be loved," just like everyone else does. Like, that has to be intentional, like that choosing that song.
Also, what I found very interesting, he's listening on an iPod too. You notice that?
Yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah, because man, I miss the iPods.
Me too. The iPods were the
Yeah,
greatest thing in the world, man. Now, and it's like, it's the man trying to control like what you listen to. Like you could put stuff on your iPod back in the day that only you had. It didn't have to be
yeah,
something on the cloud somewhere.
yeah, yeah. It's the best thing ever. I really, really miss it. I also like the sound design in this scene, and I think it repeats throughout the movie. When if you see a shot from his point of view, you hear the music playing over anything, and then it cuts away. And if you see him, you hear the music as like it from his headphones. It's not blaring over the soundtrack. Just added to the tension of that scene. I really like. I like the sound in this movie in general. You hear like the hum of the radiator he's got, the street noise. Like it's really like vibrant and part of the scene.
Yeah, it's almost like with all the time spent by yourself waiting, you become hypersensitive to your environment. That's like kind of the vibe I got from why they focused on all that like ambient noise and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like if you're ever just sitting alone and just kind of stewing about something, you become so aware of all the sounds going on around you. They totally nailed that in this opening scene.
So this what sets in motion what comes afterward is this opening scene, where he's building up this thing where he's like, it's expensive hitman, it's he's got it dialed in on how to kill people from a distance. He talks about these different methods, he can poison someone or, whatever. Like they slip and fall and it looks like an accident. And this time around, he's got like a high powered long range weapon. And his assignment is to kill this guy across the street from where he's stationed. And the dude's getting some sort of SM scene going on with like a dominatrix.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and you see him getting his crosshairs on this guy. And then, of course, like, actually, before I say that, there's a statement that he makes, something like about reacting. And fuck, I can't remember exactly what he says about like don't anticipate or something or
Don't improvise, anticipate.
there you go. Don't improvise, anticipate.
Yeah.
And this is exactly what he failed to do in this moment because he anticipated the movements of this dominatrix. And of course, once he pulls the trigger, she steps in the way of the bullet and she takes the hit. And the guy that his target is not dispatched. His target makes it out alive. So he failed his mission.
Yeah. This is the most tense scene in the movie, I thought. Like you really feel like the killer's anxiety. And again, no words spoken, but him just sort of trying to calmly run out of the building and then unlock his bike, and it's not unlocking right away. You start to feel that anxiety build, and you see him on the airplane, and he's really sort of analyzing everyone around him. He sees something about a guy with a nice pair of socks he doesn't like, so he gets off at the next flight, gets a different connecting flight. I loved all that stuff.
Yeah, so this guy's not used to failing, apparently. So this is like a new thing for him. And he goes back to the Dominican Republic where his that's where his home is. And right away he knows something's wrong.
Yeah,
And
the pile of cigarettes at the gate. Yeah.
yeah. So he rushes into his house and you hear that Portishead song playing, and his there had been people there, and you don't actually see what happened, but his lady has been attacked by these people, and she's in the hospital. And
Yes.
yeah, so and they lead you to believe that it was particularly brutal thing they did. Like they don't go into detail, but there was like an assault and all that sort of stuff.
Right. Yeah. And this is essentially kicks in. Now he's out for revenge. And
Right.
it's interesting too, because, he has this code, and the entire movie is basically the breakdown of that. Like he's kind of thrown that out the window. He repeats that mantra throughout the entire movie, but he's not living by it at this point. He is a very practical, methodical guy. He could have just disappeared. Okay, I got the warning. I'm done. I'm out of here. But no, he's got to go for this. He's improvising basically, and yeah, it's just very interesting stuff, man.
Now, this is where the second line of that Crowley quote, which they did not talk about in the beginning, like he did not mention the second line of that thelemic passage, where love is the law, love under will. Okay, so the first line, you without will shall be the whole of the law. Total will, meaning that you are 100% free in this world, in the universe, and you control your actions completely. But then they say love is the law. Okay, love under will. So love will direct your activities, like your actions in the universe. And that's what kicks in at this moment when he seeks revenge. There's no logic. There's no reason. Like logically, if you detach yourself from emotion, like getting revenge on these guys is really, it exposes you. If you follow pure logic, which is implied in the beginning that he's someone who just is logical and has no emotion, right? He would just collect the collateral damage of his injured partner and just disappear, right? That would have been the sensible thing to do. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's not what he does.
Yeah.
What he does is he's directed by love and his emotions. And then he goes on this mission of revenge because of how they hurt his lady. And that's pretty much the rest of the film is him getting revenge on the various people, finding out who they are, like confronting his handler, the guy who's posing as the lawyer. And then and that scene's awesome too.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself with it, but
yeah, it's very much a procedural movie. Like it, and I mean, this is called The Killer, but it could have also been called the director, because I feel like this guy, Michael Fassbender's character, is somewhat of a metaphor for David Fincher himself. I mean, you have a guy that is just methodical, perfectionist, and that's Fincher, man. Like I remember watching the extras on the Zodiac Blu-ray of him just doing a take over and over and over again, and it's like a scene of Jake Gyllenhaal getting in the car and throwing his notebook on the seat next to him. David Fincher wasn't seeing what he wanted in that moment, and they were just going to sit there and do it 20, 30 times until they got it right. And that's Fassbender in this movie, man. He's methodical, perfectionist, everything, just has everything completely planned out the way it's going to go. I just thought that was, I don't know. I'm sure other people have picked up on that too.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so the rest of the film is him globetrotting around, finding these people. At first he sweats it out of the lawyer, Hodges. He
first he's the cab driver. That was the first person, and really shows his lack of empathy, because this guy is basically an innocent.
Yeah.
And it, I didn't think he was gonna, hurt this guy. That was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, yeah,
You
that's
know,
right.
this is not the killer with a conscience movie. I mean, he is, but not really. Like he talks a lot about, not being vulnerable, not being weak. Having someone in his life he cares about this much is a weakness for him.
100%, man. Like, that is the ultimate vulnerability. Like someone that is outside of yourself, that's definitely like someone can exploit that, and that's what I mean. There's a lot of contradictions in his character. And that's part of like the point of this film really is to show the kind of what's the term I'm looking for? Like these like exceptions to the rules and things. You know what I mean? It's almost like when you're reading like the New York City Mechanical Code or something like that. And it's like,
Right.
okay, this is the rule. Okay. And then there's like a list of exceptions to the rule, And
Yeah.
so in his case, this is the code that he lives by. Oh, but there's these exceptions,
Right. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, some of those exceptions like create vulnerabilities. And that's exactly what this whole thing is about, is living a rigid life, but also justifying certain things in it that ultimately end up to contradict your code. And they're a little dissonant with the ideas that you have. And that ultimately being some kind of weakness or perceived weakness or vulnerability that you have to improvise your way through,
Mhm. Yeah. Also, I thought it was very interesting too that he uses his environment and things that anyone can buy to do his job. Like this isn't like some super high tech thing he's got where he's hacking and shit like that. Like no, he's doing like grunt work, going okay, who's the cab driver, just collecting information and then going to the store and buying things like like
Amazon.
NyQuil.
Yeah, like he buys stuff off of Amazon, like for that lock to deal with the lock.
Yeah, exactly. And he orders Uber Eats, or someone orders. He uses his environment. I thought that was so cool and so much better than just like, yeah, he's got some super high tech hacking device where he can just walk into any building he wants or anything like that. It was just so cool, like to see this guy just think everything through and what he needs to do, and how like really anyone can do the things he does to get into the buildings, to get close to the people. I really like that.
Some unfortunate collateral damage in this thing, of course, is Dolores, which is Hodges' assistant, his executive assistant there. And, but the guy who's his handler, like when he shows up at his office, he's just like completely, like he's not even like initially not even threatened. He just can't believe that this guy's standing here. He's like, well, what do you think this is going to solve? Like,
Right.
he's like, I can't believe like why are you here? Like nothing's going to be solved by you being here,
Yeah, exactly. Which isn't true because he gets he gets the information he wants. And this is something I wanted to talk to you about. There are a few people in this movie he doesn't need to kill. He kills them anyway. Why?
Once again, emotions, man.
Yeah.
He talks about not being emotional, but he's being emotional. It's like
he's angry.
He's angry. Yeah, it's basically what it is. I mean, you got to think about what this guy been through. He comes home, what he thought was his safe house, right? And the only possible people that would know where his residence is are the people that he works for.
Right.
I'm sure this guy doesn't have a Facebook page and Instagram. He's not posting pictures of himself, like, eating, eating some meal somewhere, or whatever. I'm checking in the Dominican Republic, or check me out at the Goat Horse Show or whatever. You know what I mean? Like he's not doing stuff like that,
Yeah, he's one of these guys who probably doesn't even exist, in a way. Like he unmemorable. That's part of his code, to just blend in.
Actually, he says something really funny, which I think Ralph probably would get a kick out of, where his disguise, like his camo, to blend in Paris, was a German tourist.
Yeah.
So yeah, nobody wants to remember the Germans.
And yeah, he wears those bucket hats. He almost looks like the singer for Oasis in like 1995. It's an interesting choice for someone who wants to blend in. I would always remember someone wearing a hat like that.
Totally. Like that guy stands out, you know what I mean, with that kind of hat, you know. And the funny
Yeah.
thing too is like Fassbender plays it like with all of the trappings of his character with the Smiths and all this other stuff and this like philosophy. You would think he would play it as a British guy, but he's playing it as
Yeah,
this kind of North American dude, you know?
man. Yeah, that's
Fincher has
cool.
him play it as like a North American.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, is Fassbender is
I think he's
a
Irish,
British
right?
dude. Oh, is
Yeah.
he Irish?
I think he's Irish,
Okay.
yeah.
Um, yeah, that's it. And the other one of the other bands he seems to like Portishead. We hear Portishead. I don't know if he's listening to Portishead or if it's on the soundtrack to the film, but I mean, wow, yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Portishead is playing in the house in the Dominican Republic when he shows up. Like maybe his lady had it on, you know, they're
That's
both
right. Yeah. Okay.
both
Yeah.
fond of like, you know, British, you know, dark pop music.
Yeah. Again, another scene where he uses the environment. He uses the FedEx guy to get into his handler's office. He could just shoot his way in there and make it cause a whole scene, but no, he's methodical. He's dressed as the as some sort of garbage man or recycling or something.
Yeah, recycling.
Yeah, yeah. Think about how many of those people you pass a day and you don't give it a second thought.
Nondescript people, you know.
Yeah.
The one thing I do have to say though, okay, is he comes in through the passenger elevator of the building.
Mm-hmm.
That would never happen ever in a building.
Yeah. Oh no.
That any kind of service goes through the service elevator, which is off of the loading dock. It's never like through the front door.
Right, yeah, because he's riding down with other passengers, like, oh, how hope you can get to get rid of that body, and you know the secretary girl like laughs, not secretary, fucking assistant. I mean, yeah, that's one little, I guess, minor detail. You're totally right that like you know that would never happen, and people would probably remember that. Like, yeah, I was going up to my office and there's a fucking dirtbag in there, you know.
Exactly. They would complain to the building probably that, hey, do me a favor, you know, have these guys take the service elevator and stay out of the passenger elevator.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And that would put attention on him. So that's my only flaw with this movie so far.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. That's a very good point. So yeah, I get why he wants to kill the lawyer. The lawyer obviously gave him up, and you know, caused his love to get hurt. But the cab driver and the lawyers, like, what exactly do you think her job is? Administrator? What does she do for him? Like, say again?
Executive assistant.
Right, executive assistant.
Yeah, she like manages schedule and you know does administrative stuff for him, only him. So yeah,
those are people just doing their job, and I don't think it was necessary for him to kill them, but he does anyway, and it's purely based on emotion, and he shows a little bit of empathy towards the executive assistant when she says, "I'm not going to beg, won't do any good, but can you at least make it look like a natural death?" Which he grants her. Doesn't have to, but he does.
Yeah.
And at one point, you think he's going to let her go, and he doesn't.
But he was. I thought he was too. But that's the once again, that's like exposure for himself. You know, I mean, like she can when she's being threatened and scared, but then once he's gone, she could just be like, "Oh, it was this guy." You know, he came and did all this stuff. So she kind of had to go, really. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I almost feel almost everyone he kills in this movie, I kept thinking like he's not going to kill them. He's going to like have some sort of change of heart, but no, he kills them. Kills everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I love that when he confronts Tilda Swinton, like she basically breaks the whole thing down. Like, you know, you don't need to be doing this. You're risking so much by doing it. Why? And he doesn't really have an answer.
No, he doesn't at all. You know, that's the thing, you know, and it's like she's always great, man. I love Tilda Swinton.
Oh yeah, that's probably my favorite scene in the movie, and I get darkly funny. You know, she's in this really nice place, and this fucking guy who looks a little rough is just sitting there. Doesn't look like he belongs there. They're having this awkward conversation. It's probably my favorite scene in the movie, or one of them.
Like stoic look on his face, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of bruised up. wearing like a puffy jacket. Doesn't look like he's going out to a nice dinner.
And once I saw that Tilda Swinton and him and Fassbender were going to do a scene, I'm like, okay, this is going to be some shit. You know what I mean? Like this is going to be
oh man,
serious like dialogue and like really sick like acting and stuff like that. You know?
Right. And I like how he comments on the house she lives in. Like, interesting choice for what you do. You know, you got these neighbors that are 5 feet away, basically.
Yeah.
I liked that.
From like Westchester County, like suburb or something like that. You know?
Yeah, I think it's exactly. Before that, there is, this is a very sort of like internal movie. There is action in it, and there's a great fight scene in this. And I wanted to get your take on it. While I was watching the fight scene in Florida, it was sort of a mix of like choreographed action and sloppy reality. Like it was a very, very cool fight scene. I liked it a lot.
It's like guys who kind of know how to fight, like and obviously like, and also the thing I thought was the dude, the bigger guy had the upper hand in a lot of the fight, because in a lot of these types of conflicts, like they'll have a guy who maybe is a little bit smaller because he's the hero or whatever.
Right.
He gets like the upper hand, and that's a little bit unrealistic in some cases. You know what I mean?
Right.
The dude was like way more physically imposing and was able to like take shots differently, and his punches were heavier, and that's the reality of it sometimes. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. But a guy like Fassbender's character would be highly, highly trained in fighting, I would imagine, and it shows. But he gets caught off guard. And
I would say though, it's like even if you're like a smaller guy, and like, at least in like striking, and like punching and kicking and stuff, it's like when you're bigger than someone, you can take their shots better. You know what I mean? Even though the guy might technically have more skill than you in like a real fight, if you're fighting someone and the dude's like more technical than you, he just isn't hitting you as hard as someone of your own size would be, and you have more physical mass to absorb the impact.
Right.
But that was what I thought was realistic about it. It's like he obviously knew what he was doing, or the guys who were the stunt guys who were doing it were skilled. But the bigger guy was like throwing him around, and you could see it made it look like his punches were landing harder. And it was like very realistic, I thought.
Yeah, and I like that it had like real like world implications. Like in some movies, someone takes a beating, and the next scene they're fine. But the next time you see Fassbender, he's limping, his face is all fucked up. Yeah, it probably might hurt his plans if you're trying to blend in and you're walking around with a black and blue eye, face. People tend to notice that.
Absolutely, they do.
And also interesting, you have this very organized sort of crimes, sophisticated crime syndicate going on, and you got this like knucklehead from Florida. Like, who was that guy? Like, how did he end up working for these people? Like it was I thought about it a lot. Like, they wouldn't have two. You're going after one of your top guys. Tilda Swinton, I get it. There's a coldness to her. I see that. But this guy, like, this seems like some thug they hired off the street. Like, yeah, okay, I'll do it for a couple $100. Like,
yeah. Like lifting weights and like pit bulls and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Smoking weed, partying. He's not as disciplined as everyone else around him. He's not as committed to this, like, this thing of blending in, no one noticing you. He's very loud.
The weights and pit bulls reminded me of Calumet Street in Boston.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's basically just going down the line, like hunting people down who wronged him, and anyone who gets in the way has got to go, which makes the final scene that much more confusing to me. Like, I was pretty surprised by how this all played out.
Finally, he finds out who the guy behind this whole thing was. This guy Claiborne, and
Claiborne, man.
Oh my God! And then once again, this guy lives in this ivory tower that's supposed to be like a secure building or whatever, and he basically just posts up outside of the garage, like the service entrance, and he orders like seamless or something like that, like some food order.
Yeah, something like that. Like, yeah.
And he just like slips in like behind the guy, and he finds his way up to Claiborne. Basically, I mean, essentially that's what happened.
Yeah, exactly. Like, again, using your environment, just using things that anyone can get to do his job. I love that.
This guy's whole like costume design and everything, like so awesome, dude. He's like,
I
this
knew
guy.
you would love that, dude. The Sub Pop shirt.
He had like a Sub Pop shirt on and like some sort of stupid hat and a stupid fucking beard and like just a stupid face. And like he's on the phone with like his stupid fucking headset, cell phone operation or whatever the hell it is. And it's like some rich fuck in his like mid-50s, like making these like moves, in the middle of the night. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's not some cold, shrewd businessman in a really sharp suit or anything. Like, he's like probably thinks of himself as one of the guys. Hey, Sub Pop shirt, wool hat.
Sub Pop shirt made me hate him like more than anything.
I knew it. He kind of looks like Moby.
Yeah, and that hat too. I want to knock that hat right off his head, man. I hated that hat that he was wearing.
Yeah, this is like one person. I was like, all right, this would be enjoyable watching the killer just fucking just end this guy. But he doesn't.
I have some thoughts about it. I mean, obviously we're gonna spoil the film for you guys who haven't seen it, but like, so he lets him live. But
right,
one of the things he says to him is like, if I have to come back here again, he's gonna concoct something like a speck of like radioactive material on your glass or something that you'll die painfully, like some death that will look like an accident. And like, in a way, I felt like rather than killing him, making this guy live in this traumatized state for the rest of his life, thinking that his life can end at any moment is probably and there's a part B to what I'm talking about too.
Okay.
It's probably like punishment, like enough of like putting that anxiety on someone to live with, So I don't know, your thoughts on that before I go on?
I agree with that. Like, I was initially very surprised and confused, but there are some things worse than death. And when he's like, look how easily I got to you, and I could do this again if you fuck with me. It's like the ultimate threat. This guy is going to be looking over his shoulder the rest of his life, paranoid.
Yeah, sure.
I'm thinking, I was like, he will probably try to take another shot at Michael Fassbender's character somewhere down the road. I think they're both going to be looking over their shoulder, for the rest of their lives.
Because in the final scene, we see Fassbender and his lady, out on a beach somewhere, like taking the sun, disappeared, living the next life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was sort of a uplifting ending, very oddly enough. But you had a part B I'd like to hear.
Okay, all right. So like in the beginning of the movie, they talk about all this like existential stuff about how we're meaningless and we live in this empty void, and life is pointless. But like a lot of times, nihilists have this concept of that's like a freeing sort of thing, knowing that you only have life and there's nothing really matters in the bigger picture, and it gives people a feeling of freedom to live their life that way, to live the life they want, right? So that would, in theory, that's Fassbender's approach to life, is that like, I nothing matters, so I'm living the way I want. Now, by telling this guy Claiborne at the end that I can snuff you at any time and no one will know that I killed you, I can make it look like an accident. Now, every day this guy wakes up, and this ties into something else. Every day this guy wakes up is another day that he gets to breathe and live, and maybe that will give him like the freedom to live to this sort of peaceful life that he has. So it's like a two-edged thing. It's like, because I said ultimately this film has a positive ending. You know what I mean? Where it's like the guy can live. He has like this A or B thing. He can either live with constant fear and anxiety, or he can think about my life ending at any moment because this guy decides to take me out, and I just live with ultimate freedom.
Right.
You know? Now, remember in Fight Club, right? There's that the guy in the convenience store where they put the gun to him and he make him go on his knees, and Brad Pitt's character, Tyler Durden,
Mm-hmm.
what do you regret not doing or whatever, and it's like,
Right.
And he's like, I wanted to be a vet, it was too hard or whatever. And when they leave him, he instructs him the next day, quit your job here and follow your thing that you want to be a vet. And he was telling, he says, when he wakes up in the morning, his breakfast is going to be the most delicious meal he's ever eaten because he got to live again. He got to live another day.
Right.
He experienced that by confronting death, and that scene reminded me of the ending of this movie, like where this guy who thought he was invincible is essentially all that safety and security is taken away from him and being like, look, you can die. I can end you right now if I want. I can end you tomorrow. I can end you a year from now. Like, what do you do with that for the rest of your life?
Right.
It's like that moment I thought was like really, really heavy and like just really intense.
Yeah, no, agreed. And that's a really great breakdown of it. I love that. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's not quite empathy what he's showing him. It's I wouldn't know how to describe it actually.
It's an interesting game that he played with him because going back to the thelemic principle that we talk about in the beginning, it's about freedom. It's about will. You know what I mean? Like that whole do it thou wilt. It's about like your will. And he bestowed upon this guy a choice. Like, you have free will. Like, you could either live in fear or you could take this uncertainty and be free of anything. So I don't know. It's such an interesting way to end the film, I thought. If it was a John Wick film, he would have killed him. You know what I mean?
Of course.
That would have been satisfying too, but he didn't.
Yeah, that's basically, and there's a little epilogue at the end with him on the beach. We just saw all this brutal, dark violence, and it ends with sunshine.
That's right.
Yeah, almost optimistic sort of ending to what we just saw. So when credits rolled, there's a few, like, what were your initial thoughts about this? Is this something that stayed in your? Because I think we both watched this last night.
Yeah. I mean, if I was in a movie theater, I would have stood up and clapped. Actually.
Yeah. After all, because I had read some or heard some negative things about this movie. Two critics I really like shit all over this movie, and so I was like, oh man, I really respect these guys' opinions. But when this ended, I wasn't thinking this is low tier Fincher. I was thinking this was one of his better movies.
I totally agree with you on that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. People are saying, like low tier Fincher. I guess that's considered what Alien 3, Panic Room, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. At least those are my bottom ones. This is okay. It's not Zodiac or Seven, but I would put this in one of his 5 best films.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's definitely one of my favorite films I've seen by him. And I've seen, a large share of his movies.
I've seen everyone except Mank, which I forgot existed. It's his, yeah. It's great to just see a real filmmaker doing what he does and executing it perfectly. I mean, guys like Fincher, they're a dying breed. Guys who make this kind of movie. There's with a big budget. There's him. There's Quentin Tarantino. There's Christopher Nolan. Real filmmakers. And this is a gift if you're a fan of films, like to get a new film from David Fincher. Even if you're watching it on Netflix, you're watching a real film.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I appreciate it, man. I think this is one of the best movies of the year. I don't agree that this is middle or low tier Fincher at all. I loved this movie, and I found it, even though with a sort of familiar story, I found it a little unpredictable. I wasn't sure what was going to happen until like the credits roll. I was like, okay, all right, Because I was expecting some sort of curveball, something.
Yeah, I thought. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. I mean,
No. Go ahead. If you're gonna grade this, well, what are you giving it?
I give it a 5, man. I love this movie. You know what I mean? I can't find anything wrong with it except for the freight elevator thing. That's literally the only issue I would have with this movie.
Yeah, 4.5 for me. Just because I want to I feel like I'm gonna love it even more with a second and third viewing. I've only seen this once, so
Yeah, definitely.
So right now it's a 4.5, but I eventually this will be on one of my favorite films of the year. It may even make my top 6 horror movies. I mean, we're talking about it on a horror podcast, but obviously this is not a horror movie.
No, it's a thriller. It's a horror adjacent film. I feel like other horror podcasts are at least talking about this movie.
Yeah, of course, and it's David Fincher, master, great director who's Seven, Zodiac. He's obviously sort of played in this sandbox before of horror adjacent stuff. I would say Seven actually is a horror movie
for sure, man. Definitely.
Yeah,
the same way Silence of the Lambs is a horror film.
Yeah, horror is not a dirty word, people.
So what do you got planned for the rest of the day, man? Do you get the day off or no?
Yeah, I do have the day off. We are going to go to some Korean restaurant today. Korean fried chicken. I think that's what we're doing today. Because I'm feeling healthy. What about you, man?
Just some domestic stuff. Maybe I think the plan is to do some shopping at maybe Whole Foods, or maybe Trader Joe's. It might be that one. Depending on how we feel, depending on how the day unfolds. Maybe Costco, but it's Saturday,
That's no. On a Saturday, no way.
And then we have to do some stuff over at either Lowe's or Home Depot, right?
Yeah.
Pick up some hardware. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Nice little Saturday.
Nice little Saturday.
And then ultimately we're going to be hitting this Thai food spot down in the town that I used to live in, Metuchen, New Jersey.
Okay.
And, they have good food there. So nice little Saturday for ourselves here.
Yeah. I might go see Thanksgiving, the new Eli Roth movie.
I have no interest in seeing that, man. Scott Hull saw it the other night, and he was like, he gave me the review that I expected to get from it. So
yeah,
but I'll see it, but not this weekend and not next weekend. I'll probably wait till it's out on streaming or something like that.
I have very mixed feelings about Eli Roth, but he's been making the podcast circuit promoting this movie, and I've listened to him a few times. Obviously, a very knowledgeable guy when it comes to horror movies and just films in general. And I don't know, something about listening to him was like, yeah, I'll go see this. I don't really like his films that much. I like Cabin Fever, and that's about it.
Cabin Fever is literally the only movie that he's made that I like.
Yeah.
Everything else is falling short with me, but people like him and whatever. I mean, I do love hearing him talk about horror films. I like what he has to say about the genre in general, but I'm not a fan of his movies. Yeah,
he's sort of like Kevin Smith in that regards. Love hearing him talk. He's made a couple things that I like, but ultimately, it's not for me. But seems like a guy you want to support. What he does.
Yeah, Kevin Smith is cool. He spends a lot of time out here in New Jersey right now. He bought a movie theater that's close by to where our practice space is. And,
I think I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
Yeah, and my drummer used to see him walking around, taking his morning walk or whatever when he's on the way to work.
Mm-hmm.
And, but he's back and forth between LA and New Jersey. So,
he's a Jersey guy. Yeah.
Mallrats is good. I enjoy that one still.
Yeah, Clerks, Mallrats. Yeah, I liked his horror movie too. Red State. Was good.
Red State was good. I saw that in the movie theater actually.
Yeah, better than expected. All right.
So that's it, man. That's The Killer, among other things that we talked about. And I'd like to thank everyone for listening. And we'll talk to everyone next week. Take care.
Have a great holiday.
All right, man. Talk to you later.
All right, man. Bye.
I am the son and heir of nothing in particular. You should shimmer, how can you say I go about things the wrong way? I am human and I need to be loved, just like everybody else does. Exactly